A majority of films, and Disney films especially, always try to hammer home a really clear message throughout the length of the story. Whether that is the dangers of pollution through evolving society in WALL-E, or that most of what causes bonds to be broken is misunderstandings due to lack of communication in a Goofy movie. There is no message that is quite as potent, however, as the simple phrase, anyone can cook. Which in other words means, I'm Stickas, and this is Ratatouille. Ratatouille is a Disney film from 2007 where a rat named Remy, who has a passion for cooking, finds himself in a situation where he gets a chance to fuel and explore his aspirations for food. The movie opens with a very common how'd I get here cliche, which normally I would hate, but like, look at this little fella. How could you not want to know how he got in such a silly little predicament? Like, how could you not? Remy himself has a very strong sense of taste and smell that allows him to pick apart ingredients in different foods, which inevitably leaves him with being his colony's poison checker for the food they take in, which he hates, obviously. The issues between Remy and his father, the leader of the colony, stems from their perspectives on food's purpose in the world. It differs dramatically, where Remy's father believes that food is just sustenance, so he's perfectly fine eating garbage or anything that he finds on the ground just to keep living, whereas Remy, on the other hand, sees food as a culinary, as an art. He would only want to eat something that's more innovative than what he can find in an alleyway dumpster between an Arby's and a Taco Bell. The movie does a few things that really try to show you the art of food without being able to use your sense of taste directly, and so it mimics some sense of taste through your other senses. Such as this beautiful scene we get of Remy eating a strawberry and some cheese and then combining them together, and the movie shows you this with these really pretty swirls of color that represent the flavor of each of the foods in such a unique manner. There's also an audible element that they add to scenes like this in the movie where it presents a different melody with each of the foods as well, that really tries to express the contrast of flavors with differing upbeat melodies or similar classical melodies depending on the flavor of each food and how they would correspond to a melody in any capacity. And so anyways, these highly developed senses that Remy has are what inevitably lead him to pursue the creation of different flavors at any cost, such as him cooking a mushroom with fucking lightning, like he's Benjamin Franklin or some shit, and risks not only his life, but also Ratatouille brother's life as well, which, his name's Emil. He's alright. And then after all that, bro still decides that he's not done with the mushroom. It's gotta be a masterpiece. So he goes back into the house to get a specific spice, which ends up being saffron. And this granny pulls out a fucking shotgun on 2 rats and unloads enough shells to collapse her fucking ceiling in, which exposes the nest and all the rats have to skadilly-daddle. The other things that I wanted to mention before we move forward is that I love how this movie gives Remy a reason to be anthropomorphic, which is basically where animals in movies adapt human traits so that it's more assimilatable for the viewer to watch so they can see themselves as that character. And the reason this is basically because Remy's just a germaphobe by rat standards. And most of what he learned in terms of food came from a world-famous chef named Gusteau, who is unfortunately deceased, but Remy gets to talk to through his schizophrenic hallucinations due to him feeling alienated from both aspects of his life that he really cares about, being culinary and family, respectively. Back to the rats escaping, and here we see that Remy goes back for the cookbook, which ends in him not making it to the same place as the rest of the colony. And he ends up wandering Paris and sees some crazy shit, including like a shootout turned into passionate love affair, and Doug the dog from Up, which is a cool little Easter egg, but it's still a little off. And then after which, Remy finds himself at Gusteau's very restaurant. This is where we meet Linguini, our other main character in this film. After his mother recently passing, she lined him up for a job at Gusteau's as a garbage boy, and simultaneously Remy ends up stuck in the kitchen and sneaks his way to a window out like he's 007 for some reason. He turns around before leaving and decides to fuck with some soup that he's seen on his way by, which takes fucking balls, let's be real. And Linguini ends up getting credit for this, and they make him a chef in the kitchen. Then, once Remy is caught, they give Linguini the task of getting rid of him, at which point he struggles to do so, and they meet a mutual understanding to work together. Both parties here need each other. Linguini needs Remy to help him seem like an actual chef and keep his job that he needs, and Remy needs Linguini to have an avenue to cultivate his culinary talents. Remy moves in with Linguini, and we get this beautiful overshot of Paris out the apartment window. The visuals in this movie are so beyond stellar. It's so, the attention to detail is crazy. The next day, Remy and Linguini are challenged to figure out how to cooperate with each other discreetly and effectively to recreate the soup made the day before. They try a bunch of things that don't work, but eventually Remy ends up under Linguini's chef's hat, and Linguini dubs him the name Tiny Chef, or occasionally Little Chef, which is honestly so adorable. The pair then get sent to practice cooking with a coworker named Colette, who is the love interest for Linguini in this film, and this woman is so fucking fine. I can't even begin to explain it, so we're just gonna kind of skip past it, keep moving forward. During this, Skinner, who is the current owner of Gusteau's and the main antagonist of the film, finds out about Linguini potentially being Gusteau's kid, and fears for the empire of Gusteau-branded frozen products that he built being stripped away from him. He starts to trip after seeing Linguini with Remy multiple times as well, which is, odd. With this fear, he decides to make Linguini's life a lot harder by forcing him to make something off-menu for the customers that requested something new. Expecting it to fail, although it ends up going extremely well because, let's be honest, Remy is the fucking GOAT. There's also this little scene after where Remy gets to relax and he's given like a bundle of grapes and some cheese, and this is where the little details actually just make some scenes a million times better, because you'll notice that Remy bites the top off the grape and then he holds it by the stem and drinks it like a wine glass, which is such a nice little touch for the movie. Remy then gets reunited with his colony, where there's this really cool makeshift band that the rats have, and then Remy and his dad argue over humans and what the perspective on them should be. They really have a divide about this because Remy knows that in order to live with his passion, he has to indulge with other humans. In the morning, Remy has to take control of an asleep Linguini who is up all night cleaning, and because of this, Colette thinks that he is snubbing her and slaps him awake, and then he almost tells her about Remy, and then Remy steers Linguini into a kiss with her because bro is the greatest wingman of all time and buds a romance for the two. They then leave Remy behind, where he proceeds to find out about Linguini technically being the owner of the restaurant, and he gets in a chase scene with Skinner over the documents, where we get this little scene where Skinner pulls the tablecloth off this random couple's table as an accident. But it's a nice reference to a little waitering trick. I also want to point out that the rat in this scene has the A113 Easter egg for this movie on the little tag on his ear. Not important, just something I want to make note of. We are then introduced to another big character at this point in the movie in terms of a food critic named Anton Ego. He has this really creepy vibe about him, and his office that he works from is shaped like a coffin too, which is it's to kind of hammer home the idea that all the reviews that he makes will be the coffin of your restaurant if they don't go well, which is just a cool little detail to, hinder to his character. And then his creepy persona kind of gets broken when he says,
if I don't love it, I don't swallow.
After finally showing up at the restaurant. Remy and Linguini have one little fight over Remy being kind of a dick, and then they part ways for a little while. Remy and the rest of the rats eventually return to the restaurant, and Linguini and Remy show the truth to the whole kitchen in attempts to let them cook together for the new dish that Ego wants. Everyone leaves, with Colette being the only one that turns back around, reluctantly going along with it, supposedly for her feelings for Linguini. The rats all follow Remy's instructions to run the kitchen. Linguini waits tables, and Colette learns that a literal rat is better at her than cooking. They then end up serving Ego Ratatouille. He said the thing! So good that it makes him have fucking Nom flashbacks, and he licks his damn plate clean like a feral dog. Curious? Ego waits until after the restaurant closes to meet the chef. That makes him question, all of reality, obviously. And we see the reaction to the most literal example of Gusteau's phrase, anyone can cook. The end of the movie is then shown as Ego reads the review he wrote after his visit, and Gusteau's gets shut down. Remy, Linguini, and Colette open a new restaurant that Ego visits frequently, and they get a beautiful new apartment with a better view of the Eiffel Tower. And, for the most part, that's Ratatouille. Of course, there's so much more beauty in this film than I could possibly compress down to a video like this, but it's mostly just stuff that you'll catch watching the film for yourself. I do hope that you enjoyed me rambling about a silly little fella and his love for cooking. Like the video and shit. I think I might do like Bolt or Kronk's New Groove next, maybe. Anyways, that's gonna be it for me. I hope you guys have a good day. Toodles.